Okay, in this one, I'm going to go through the list of all the requests I've had that I didn't get to answer in separate videos because they started bundling up right at the end, and a whole bunch of topic requests right at the end. Anyway, first, talk about repressed emotions with somebody with avoidant personality disorder. I actually don't think that there really are that many that are wholly repressed. I think that there are a lot that are unexpressed. But for instance, I think that's one of the big things about somebody who has avoidant personality disorder versus borderline personality disorder is that people with avoidance are pretty clear about who they are as people and how they feel about things. Now, the thing to keep in mind about that is that one emotion might mask as another. So, for instance, you might be coming across as angry, but you're actually sad, and you might not like mislabel it to yourself, but that's not really repressed. And again, not confronting people is huge too. But I would, if you think you have repressed emotions, I would dig for them and find out what they actually are, because again, it could just be that you actually are having the emotions, you're just mislabeling them, which is different from being repressed. Write a book about avoidant personality disorder. No. Because for a few reasons. One, I don't think there would actually really be that many people who would want it. And two, then you have to deal with publishers, etc. And three, which is huge, that you need to have, generally to have anything published about a psychological disorder, you need to have the education background. You must have a PhD in psychology, etc. Okay, unrequited love. This is, look up something called limerence, which I think is spelled Limerance. Limerence is the feeling of falling in love and like the early stages. And for people who have true unrequited love, okay, there's the avoidant part, which is that you can't express it. That's, because of the avoidance. That's not really unrequited, because unrequited is something you could have, but you can't have. For avoidant people, not, it's a separate thing, and it's hard to explain the line, but it really is different. If you have true unrequited love, and especially if you have them over and over again, then what it is that you're feeling limerence, which is that falling in love feeling, and that's what you're liking, usually more than the person. The number one way to get over unrequited love is to get to know the person you're talking about and thinking about, because then you'll see their flaws and you won't like them so much, and they'll be more human. And of course, you can always go after them too, but that's what it is that you don't know enough about the person, so you got a big fantasy, and you're digging the limerence feeling. Okay, forbidden love. Different but the same. If you have a true forbidden love, that's like illegal. There's a reason that those loves are illegal, and I would go into therapy about them. If you're talking about, like, you think you're in love with your best friend's wife or something like that, that's a safety mechanism, that you're purposefully picking somebody unavailable that you can crush on, so that you don't have to go through the heartache part of it, really. I mean, it's limited. you're not going to get the highs, so the lows aren't going to be anywhere near as bad as they could be. So that's basically what that is. And it's a safety mechanism, and again, therapy can help. Lies about somebody who is telling you you're going to do something and then you didn't, and why would they do that? Why somebody with avoidant personality disorder would tell you that they're going to do something and then not is probably there's two big reasons for it. One is that they didn't want to disappoint you, and so they're trying to fulfill your standard for them. It's actually not something that they didn't want to do themselves. It's what you want to do, so they're telling you they're going to do it. The other thing is actually more likely, and this happens all the time, which is that the person had every intention to do it and just couldn't. And then in that case, if you're saying, well, I'll just come along with you, that's going to backfire, because you're going to put more pressure on them, and then it would be way more about you than them. And even if they go and do whatever it is that they say they want to do, if it's not their time to do it, then, you can push them all you want, but it's not going to work. So I would say it's not lying to protect themselves. It's lying because they're trying to live up to a standard that you are giving them to. So how to handle that is to support them and say, okay, that's really too bad that you didn't do that. I don't know you wanted to, and I'll be here the next time you give it another shot. And you will give it another shot, and I know you'll be able to do it in the future. And bummer you didn't do it right now, but it's coming. That's basically the only way to do it. Wishful thinking. Okay, well, it's actually part of the diagnosis that people with avoidant personality disorder have a constant running fantasy sort of thoughts going through their head of what's going on. If you mean that you're trying to create in your head a perfect scenario, I mean, that is practice for if you ever get a perfect scenario situation going on. And as far as if you're wishful thinking that somebody who's, like, say, being abusive to you is suddenly going to stop being abusive to you, again, that's a protective sort of thought process that you're having, that, if you're really hoping and pinning your hopes on a much better situation than actually is going to happen, it's a way to get through something that you can't get out of, basically. Self-loathing is, unfortunately, part of being an avoidant person. Therapy can help. Because it can help. What will really help is if you, and this is nasty and vile, but this is true, is if you really actually start comparing yourself to other people objectively and say, well, look at this person, they're doing this, and I don't mean look at a successful person, I mean look at an average Joe and really look at how they're living their life. Not your fantasy about what you think they're living, but really truly say, okay, look at that guy. He looks like he has it all together, but look at this, and look at this, and look at this, and look at this. And try to sort of be more realistic in your self-impression. There's ideals that everybody's supposed to live up to, and there's not one person on the planet even come close. So that's what the self-loathing is a lack of self-compassion, and you're not giving yourself a break, and basically being a little bit out of touch with reality of what your actual expectations are. And yeah, I'm a hypocrite, but that's that will start to knock it down. You will never be able to get rid of it completely if you have avoidant personality disorder. If you only have avoidant traits, then yeah, you can get rid of it. Interacting with other avoidants. What would I say about that? I have never met in real life, actual face-to-face, a person with avoidant personality disorder. However, I talked to them online. And on the one hand, it's really great because it's like somebody who understands and, like, you know, they get your sort of lingo. They know what you're talking about. They get your shorthand. That's great. On the other side, you get all the triggers for yourself and them, and they bounce back and forth and exacerbate each other, and yikes. I get really annoyed with therapists who tell me, oh, well, you only talk to avoidance, which is not true. But, you know, when you talk to avoidance, then obviously you're not going to be able to have, like, a normal sort of relationship, and you're not going to be able to have a normal sort of, you know, interaction with somebody. You can't really judge what they say to you as anywhere near accurate. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I don't like when people say that. Would I seek them out? I think it would be really, really very strange, incredibly weird. Again, because you see the reticence as rejection. Even if somebody you like really like and you know really well, that awkwardness, you see it as a rejection, and so I don't know. It'd be very strange. Fear of abandonment. This is absolutely classic. There's a lot of people I know who, because I know so many people, who will just outright say, okay, when I first meet them and you know, we really hit it off and we're gabbing with each other, and then they sort of, you know, get over that initial thing, and I can sort of feel that they're starting to pull away. I'm afraid that they're going to go in that direction completely, and I pull out before they do it to me. I kind of did that this week myself. I decided not to see my therapists anymore. She extremely highly discouraged me from making that decision. And she said herself that she was having therapy intervening behaviors or something like that. She totally admit that she made mistakes, and that you know, more of it was her fault, and she apologized. And I was like, okay, you know what? I've seen this before. I've seen the signs of a therapist is getting burnt out. I've got some things going on in my life right now that I really, nope, can't deal with that. And I can't put in the work of rebuilding the trust, and so yeah, no, out of there. Now I said I don't have any friends at all. I think that what I should say, because again, this is like define the word thing. You know, I can absolutely say I don't have any friends who live within 1,000 miles of me. I have one friend who I grew up with, who we don't talk to each other for years. And the thing is, this is what's genius about him. He never makes any sort of deal out of the distance, like, what have you been doing for the last 5 months or whatever. He's just like, it's like it just completely starts over as if it never ended. And then I have another person who I think gets really offended by my reaction to the distance, inevitable distance, you know. Although he really has a big clue about avoidance, and he'll just call me right out and say, you're being defensive and you're, you know, acting like an avoidant person right now. Will you knock it off, please? It's like, okay. But yeah, I mean, so person goes away and I think, oh, that's it, they're done.